think you have to ask the question, where is the money? It's very simple. Take the National Institute of Mental Health. It's spent $8 billion over the last 20 years on the theory that they would be able to find the genes for schizophrenia, the genes for depression. All of these are phenomena that run in families. So to give them credit, there was, as it were, a basis for thinking that it might be that these are genetic diseases, and therefore we might be able to cure them through discovering which were the genes, go in and repair them, and Bob's your uncle, you've cured the disease. Nothing like that has happened after 30 years of genome sequencing. What we now know is there's no gene for schizophrenia. The sad fact is that we will never predict who is going to suffer that disease from the genetics. So I think part of the problem is that we've got like a big battleship cruising along nicely with its energy being supplied. The energy is the money, of course. It's going to take an almighty effort to turn that around now and say, no, wait a minute, purposive biological investigation is actually much more predictive than the genome. I've shown that. An article that appeared just last year in one of the oldest biological journals in the world, the Journal of the Linnaean Society, named after Linnaeus, the great classifier of species. And what we showed in that article was one example after another where attributing purposiveness to the organism enables you to predict, even at the molecular level, what is happening. Now, that gets technical. I don't think you want a technical account in this particular broadcast. But example after example showed that it was much more predictive of what you need to look for at the lower level of the molecular biology of the organisms concerned than anything to do with genes could be. It really is the case, therefore, one example after another, we've got the whole process backwards. We need now to turn that battleship round. It'll take an enormous amount of effort because there are whole armies of people dedicated to the gene-centric view and doing science on that basis. They can't suddenly all become physiologists and look at function or look at purpose in biology. It's as bad as that. It's as though an army has been sent into a war that's fought for the wrong reason. And you then work out what you're going to do. You've got 1 million people employed with the feeding of them and all the provisions that need to be provided for. And you've got to retrain them as what? Tailors to go back into being, as it were, in civil society. I mean, actually, it's not a bad analogy because after wars, that's what you actually have to do. My father was a tailor. He was a soldier in the First World War too. And so it's a bit like that. We're going to have to find a way of turning this battleship round, and it's going to take an enormous amount of effort to do so, and there is very strong resistance. But I'll tell you another thing. The people who are still broadcasting the idea that genes are going to be the explanation for why we are the living, purposeful organisms we are, they have gone very silent over the last few years. I do not think they have an answer. I debated all of this with Richard Dawkins in a broadcast which has gone viral in various parts of the world, and he had no answers to all the examples I gave. Again, I don't want to go into the technology, but one example after another that I gave to him, he diverted off to use his usual mantra about genes are causes of what we are, rather than address the detailed examples I gave. Everybody can look that up. Everybody can find all the literature that I cited too. It's all there on a website.
Yes,